now for people to join, we can continue discussion a little bit about the. By the way, I use the same crypto exchange as well for that, and I just recently actually I was moving from. You have this situation where you have something on an L2, and then you want to move it somewhere, and then you're like, damn it, the native token, and then you have to it's an exercise actually, to get something off, and on. So.
Yeah, even like for BTC, because I deposited, because I borrowed actually against Aave. I had Bitcoin, so I had to obtain WBTC. I'm like, I'll just use Binance. It's just super fast, and the fees were lower than going through the. I'm not even sure where to get the WBTC in a decentralized way these days.
Hello, Timlin.
I think hi Timlin. Yeah, I think what's definitely missing a lot is DeFi on Bitcoin. Actually, yeah, there's not much there or nothing. I mean, but to be fair, it's Bitcoin blockchain of Bitcoin is never meant to be to run smart contracts. Actually, that's basically the big problem in my view. Actually. And stacks, which I love a lot, and it's great, but it's not really. They didn't, they've been around for a long time, but didn't really, it's not there what we kind of imagine. But I understand.
Awesome. There's this white paper called BitVM where someone is hinting an idea how you might build a ZK rollup on top of Bitcoin, but they're not actually building it. That's like, we think it's possible, but we don't know how.
Yes, I understand. Let me just give me 1 second, guys. I mean, you continue talking. Just Mike is asking me to give him a link to join, so I will do that. And we have a good turnout actually.
Liquid
today.
Network.
Sorry.
Hey, Sergey.
Sergey is messaging.
Yes.
Liquid Network. Yeah, it's another.
Yes.
I think Sergey is a Bitcoiner. I saw his messages on LinkedIn. I think he's a maxi.
Yeah.
Aren't we all?
Why not? You can only triple your money on Bitcoin. I'm not really. You can only do 3x, 5x your money on Bitcoin. That's it. You can't do 100x.
I like how you say only. That's the good. That's the good one. When you say only. Yes.
Hi guys.
Hi Mike. How are you?
Hello, Michael.
Delayed. Sorry about that.
No.
It's an exciting day. So much I wish to share, but I cannot. Right? It's just not ready. But we are cooking a lot of stuff, right?
Mike, now you got even me excited, and I spoke with you a few minutes ago. So, what's cooking actually? You're very good in marketing, better than me.
Suspense.
Leave them guessing. Yeah.
Yes, leave them guessing actually. But just wink, wink. I know what you're talking about. So yeah, this is very big actually. When this flies, it's going to be amazing actually. And now I can see the rate count on the viewers that our stream going up actually. Yeah, so good. Awesome.
Oh.
Cool. I think slowly, we can kick it off. And I'm, watching that quite a few people joined. So we have a good turnout on LinkedIn. Somebody, Lonely Soul, is watching us on YouTube, and a few people on Twitter. So good, actually. Very happy how that people kind of turned out. So this is awesome, actually. And maybe just the guys, to have how I would maybe today what I would kind of want to share a few things is kind of to explain to the community kind of where we are in terms of SwissAssetDAO. Definitely to explain, the motivation that and also be very transparent that we are trying out things, to try to find the right way forward for SwissAssetDAO. And maybe there to provide a little bit more transparency what we're trying to achieve, with certain, these experiments that we're doing, with the goal that we find something that really, there is a strong pull from the market already now, but that really we find our small place where we can kick things off and do a prototype and show that this, makes sense, and then kind of iterate from that, So this is on one side, and then I would like to also to discuss a little bit on my side the deck, which a few people gave comments to, which is good actually. So that's also that, and then also I think maybe we could also have a bit of a discussion, how RW. I mean, today we are really. I mean, the crypto is going up like crazy. Bitcoin, touched 37K. This is the discussion Jamie and Chris we had before Mike EB kicked off and Mike joined, and Ether is at 2K. So we kind of like that we also reflect how RWAs with their attractive but not 3x 5x year return can compete, and where they fit into the risk return profile, where obviously you get a different you get the yield basically from RWS. So also that we reflect a little bit on that and kind of where this could take us and how to position. So this is a little bit kind of like how I would propose we frame it for today, but also happy to hear guys you know kind of how if you would want to add something further actually.
Sounds good, Anton.
Awesome, cool. So yeah, so I mean, we had a little on my side to kick it off. We had a bit of a discussion in a sense, like, okay, but what is Swiss Asset doing? What's the strategy? And I think the vision is clear. We want to create that bridge. And Jamie, I'm using your terminology. We're creating a bridge so that crypto native companies can invest into real world assets, in a very smooth, efficient, and way, and a safe and secure way, and legal way. So that's the big vision. That's where we're going at. But then, okay, but how do we go from here, where it's still early days objectively? How can we kind of get there? And I think like one experiment, one approach we're trying now is actually to work with a partner, a very well-known lending platform. We can say the name later. I mean, I don't think it's a huge secret actually, where we want to create a liquidity pool such that we enable crypto native companies like DAOs to deploy capital into real world assets, and the real world asset would be, as an example, a euro denominated bond. So this is actually one very like a concrete example of let's say an experiment that we are doing to actually show that this has traction, this has interest, and that we can actually get some liquidity into that liquidity pool. So in terms of like what is actually very proactive, what is SwissAssetDAO trying to do to show and demonstrate that traction is actually, this is like a very concrete example. And obviously, if this works very well, and I'm actually quite bullish on this, that this could be very attractive actually. This would then kind of create a clear path for us to move forward. And then, if we want to really move forward and scale on that approach, then we can obviously invest capital and money and raise capital and money and build something where we actually know already there's a demand. Because we want to avoid this scenario that's been in the crypto space for many, many years, where people tokenize everything that you can imagine. There's a lot of things, a lot of tokenizations happening, but not a lot of liquidity going into those tokenized products. And we want to first prove the demand before we go out and build a lot of things and spend a lot of capital and money and time on that. So this is a little bit kind of wanted to share for the community, kind of a very clear, practical, clear use case that we are pursuing now to show that, this has a demand. So I will pause now at this point, pass the word to the team on this live stream if you want to add something. But this is, kind of where I really want to have a very transparent communication with the community. Kind of where are we? What are we trying to achieve with this experiment that I just described? And we're trying to prove that there's a demand before we go out and scale. So I will pause now, guys, if you want to add something or contribute or share or critique. And also, we're looking at your comments as well. If you have something, just write us, please. And happy to answer.
Okay, well, I'll just jump in. I'm not sure if this is going to be incremental to what you've just described, but I think we're seeing a lot of action there in the US Treasury bill space, and I don't think that we have a particular edge in that space. It's understandable why there is demand for that tokenized product, I think, and one of the reasons for that, of course, is that you can get yield on an easily understandable credit instrument. People don't think about treasury bills, they just think this is US dollars, and so they're earning 5% on a very simple asset. It's immensely understandable, it's liquid, and it's high credit quality. I think we can do something in the euro space. Of course, we could go off-piste and get into all sorts of unusual exotic asset classes, but I think that's been tried in the past, and I don't think the market, or we're not quite sure where the liquidity would be for those sorts of products. So if you keep it simple, look at something of high credit quality, something that's liquid, and I think there should be demand in that space. In fact, I think we're sort of getting some confirmation day by day that there is actually appetite for that. And once we've established that, once people start getting comfortable with, once crypto native investors get comfortable with investing in new asset classes, then you can branch out. But I think in the meantime, it's good to keep it simple.
Yeah, there is also some wisdom in this, Jamie and Anton, which I think I want to also really emphasize again, right? I mean, liquidity and scale doesn't come really from necessarily tokenizing something very unique, small, and crazy, but actually, the most boring stuff has been most successful in this market. It's just nature of how markets work, and treasury bills easily understood, infinitely scalable in terms of trading. So it's just a very easy way to earn money, I suppose. And not adding too much more to your statements, but I believe also that for the low-hanging fruit in terms of scale is not going to be tokenizing maybe watches, but really something a bit more established in the financial markets, with little extra risks attached to them that can be scaled, and with scale comes liquidity.
Yeah. I think I might just add to that I saw is it today or just in the last week that Maple Finance has launched its new delegate pool called Osprey, which is it's a US dollar based product which has at its core some US treasuries, but there's also an actively managed US dollar component where they're coming up with a slightly enhanced yield on the overall product. I think they as of today they claim to have 8 million TVL. I think they only launched a few days ago or a week ago. So that's an interesting development where you've actually got people or investors coming in and saying, okay, on treasury bills I could earn 4.5%, 5%, but if I go into this Osprey product on Maple Finance, then I can get an extra 100 or 150 basis points. And that's kind of understandable as well. And I think it's these incremental changes where you'll see investors move into slightly more interesting asset classes. In the meantime, I don't think there's really much in the euro-denominated space. And given we're all sitting on this side of the Atlantic, it makes a lot of sense for us to focus on something like that.
Thanks a lot, guys. There was a question actually from Tom asking about opportunities actually in Swiss franc denominated instruments, So
Yep.
I think Swiss rates have always been low historically, a lot lower actually than, the rest of the world. But price appreciation from the Swiss franc is definitely, something that many have noticed actually for decades now. So guys, I don't know how you think about that one. Actually, I'm not really like home turf with... and also, I think there's not a lot of actually Swiss franc denominated debt actually, right? So Switzerland is not really printing and issuing it to that extent, right? If I understand it, yeah.
That's right, and I think we're looking at some point tokenizing or kind of investing through a lending protocol into private credit in Swiss franc dominated in Switzerland, and in a very nice, even scalable, systematic way. But if your funding currency is US dollar, and if that's like the baseline, it's just very hard to make that work as a yield product in Swiss francs, whichever way you kind of look at it. But I think the rates are just not there.
Well, as an alternative, I think you'll find that UK gilts, so UK government treasuries, are actually a little bit above euro equivalents, and I think that's another alternative. I mean, it's a relatively deep market, I think. I have to look into it, but somebody suggested it to me the other day that if we wanted a little bit more yield enhancement on top of euro rates, then we should look at sterling government rates. But there's a number of things to play with here. Michael, you say if you're denominated in dollars, how would you? I'm just throwing this out there. I don't know the answer. If you're a large DAO treasury and you have a significant amount of holdings in well, part of your holdings are in your native token, and then you might have some ETH, and then you've got some USDC. Do you think they view themselves as denominated in dollars, or is that?
It's a good question. Probably we're just emerging to that kind of thinking, which is very established in probably every treasury out there in the real world in TradFi, especially banks, where you always think of, what is actually your funding currency, and what do you have to pay in terms of funding rate to finance all your activities. This is going to be like the minimum what you have or any asset needs to pay, so you don't lose money overall. And it's a hurdle rate, but actually it's not even a hurdle rate. It's just a base rate that you need to earn as a funding component. So then on the other side, if not US dollar, what else would you actually think of? Bitcoin and all the other kind of possible currencies which would lend themselves, they don't really have a yield, they don't have a rate, they're non-productive assets. You could maybe look at a staking yield for Ether, for example, these kind of things. But I think in the end, you will always pivot back to, what is my, if I would convert it to real world, what would it be worth? And then look at that as a baseline. Especially if you incorporate somewhere and have a balance sheet in the real world, and as these DAOs probably need to do at some point, and you have actual costs and payments to make to pay your employees, whoever, you maybe start to look at these kind of TradFi concepts or yields as your base rate, base currency.
I'm sorry, I missed some small technical difficulties. I missed most of that. I do. I'm not sure if you covered it. I think for a highly leveraged organization, I think ensuring that you've got sort of an amount of hedging across your various currencies on your balance sheet is obviously critical. If you are effectively an equity funded treasury, DAO treasury, then I think you could probably explore different currencies. I think if you hold 50% of your DAO treasury in your native token, then you are, you're obviously exposed to the fluctuations of crypto markets and your own protocol. I think some of the groups I've spoken to, they have expressed that they do see some benefits in diversifying away from. Then it does make some sense to diversify away from exclusively US dollar type products, not just for the currency, but also because most of those products are US, let's say resident or located, and there's just a bit of sort of regulatory uncertainty perhaps. And so if you can look at a product from an environment that's got a bit more legal certainty, then that's kind of a benefit. I don't know how you measure it exactly, but it's a non-zero benefit.
Yes. Maybe I would just want to add something on my side, because we now spoke a lot about real world assets and yield. I hear now a lot of ideas actually of that we can actually get yield from the crypto space. And usually it involves somehow deploying capital somewhere, and then you need to hedge and things like that. So like a typical example is you can stake your ethers, and then to take out the volatility of the ether price, you will go and hedge, in the futures market and the perpetuals, and even there you can get the yield from the carry, actually, from the difference between the spot and the perpetuals. What I usually then explain to people actually that obviously first has a lot of tech risk, smart contract risk actually, and also hack risk actually, where if you really lose the asset, it's gone actually, which is unlike with real world assets. If the underlying asset is just sitting in an SPV, if it's not on a balance sheet of an entity. But I think we definitely always have to reflect on what's the scale, because if you go out and let's say you find a nice cryptocurrency where you can stake it and get 20% yield, but then you want to hedge the price exposure, and you say we have an entity interested to deploy 50 million, but then you realize if you hedge 50 million in the futures market, you move the price by 20% by yourself when you do the hedge. So I think it's really important for us to kind of, when we emphasize that we are the lucky part about real world assets is that you have scale in the asset when you are looking at actually very liquid stuff like government bonds and or something that's actually quite sizable actually. So this is also just somehow for us also to be aware actually that it's not so easy to extract yield on chain in scale. And there are very structural reasons why that's difficult to do that. And many times it revolves around liquidity, actually, liquidity of the underlying a token or a cryptocurrency. Yeah? So just for us to a little bit to be aware of that, to kind of add to also to share with our community so they have a bit of understanding, But definitely something that we as SwissAssetDAO should be aware of, that even though today very, very few, or I would say almost nobody, is issuing real world assets directly on chain. So US government is not issuing government bonds directly on chain, but this is something that we have to have in the back of our mind. But it could become actually, there's a lot of infrastructure to support that actually, but on the crypto side, but we have to have it in the back of our mind that if this trend picks up, that SwissAssetDAO needs to be ready to kind of add our value and add our contribution there. So at the moment, on-chain real-world assets, not there yet, by far almost zero, but we have to keep it in the back of our mind of SwissAssetDAO. So this is just what I wanted to add a little bit. Cool. Maybe then if there's no further points on that, we can also reflect a little bit on the deck that we shared last week with the community. And I'm really, really super happy with the enormous response. I'm just joking. So very few people reached out and said that, first of all, the feedback was that the deck is very clean cut, so very straightforward, in line also with the communication and the vision of SwissAssetDAO. So we are consistent. Okay, these are the team that wants to enable the crypto native companies to invest into real world assets. It's kind of very clear. So I was the feedback was that it's very, smooth, short also. It was a very good compliment. They said very short and clear to the point. So that was very positive feedback. What definitely want to emphasize is that, the part where we kind of need to add a bit more meat on the bone over time is that magic sauce slide. And I think if you kind of are in the space of real world asset space, you maybe know what are these pieces, together that we are putting in place. Or if you're part of the legal calls, so this was discussed in quite great length actually. And I please invite the community to take a look at those calls because they're very, very educational and very, very good. But that, definitely people kind of highlighted, hey, but what is the magic sauce there? Can you tell me a bit more? There are people already excited, but it's kind of the magic sauce is kind of like, they want a second date basically. So the first date went fine. The deck was short and sweet and cute, looked very good and handsome, but now they want a second date, maybe with some drinks, and some action at the end of a very light action at the end of the second date. So this is just something that, that was the feedback. And I also still invite our community, please take a look at the deck, provide us feedback, tell us what's missing, what we need to add, because this, the more we strengthen the message and the vision and also clear short-term goals of SwissAssetDAO, the more solid it becomes and the easier it is to communicate with stakeholders who can provide funding. So this is a little bit an update from my side. Guys, if you want to add something with regards to the deck, or if it's feedback, or you want to add something to my story about the second date and how it goes and what are the expectations usually for the second date, so I leave it to you.
Well, I got some positive feedback from my network, people that aren't actually involved in SwissAssetDAO, but who had sort of picked it up via, the algorithm, I suppose, on LinkedIn and elsewhere. So well done. I think that was overall very positive feedback.
I mean, from my side, actually support what Sergey was, the questions by Sergey. Doesn't necessarily belong in the pitch deck, but all these points are good. One thing that is unclear, and again, it probably doesn't belong in the pitch deck, but I mean, SwissAssetDAO is a DAO. It's in the name, but it's not necessarily obvious on the deck.
Okay, very good point. Yeah, I agree. And also why a DAO? I think I got actually quite a few time a question outside of the scope of the deck. So people would ask me, why the heck are you a DAO, you know? Or even they ask me, what does it mean that you're a DAO? I realized actually even that's a challenge to understand for most of the people. And I said, yeah, we have a community. And they're like, oh, okay, I get it. So, but I think like even education around what does it mean to be a DAO, it's such an open opportunity out there, because unless you're in a DAO and kind of actively participating, or if you kind of see stuff behind the scenes, I think most people just don't understand what it is actually. Everybody's super excited, but they don't understand what it means, yeah. So I'll add this, you know, short piece on my side. And I'll write it down, by the way, yeah, so we can invest.
And the other thing is what we already discussed previously, but what was the plan for, I mean, because we're building a platform, so that feels like building technology. Or is it like a legal platform? Are we talking legal platform? And the goal is to use or have partnerships with existing DAOs, existing technology providers, or is there a plan to actually build on the tech side as well? And also in terms of that's Dubai.
Sorry, I forgot to mute myself. Now you know I mute myself.
Yeah, I would say with the ask, it's a fundraising deck, but let's say, how do I invest, for example? If I want to invest myself, how do I invest? But I know we already talked about it, so I'm just repeating myself.
Yeah.
Mike, how was the feedback from your network, or your thoughts around this?
No, I think given it's short and we kind of have clarity around what this is going to do and what it is used for, it's understandable. And here, exactly because we're the exactly because of the community, but we need everybody to have a look at this and everybody to stand behind this, and so to multiply and amplify the messaging, right? So only that way we can win. And I think it's also an interesting way to do this, because normally as a everybody who has been a founder or raising funds for a company, right, does it the opposite way. But I find it very interesting to really do it this way as well. Going out, make everybody part of this, have everybody contributing, everybody feel like having a stake in this. So I'm excited to continue and see how we can execute on this.
Awesome. Cool. Super cool. Thanks a lot, guys. So, yeah, I think I also just want to say overall, I think it's a very positive feedback and still a very good vibe around SwissAssetDAO. So we should work on that, continue on that. And so definitely, I think, it's going to be awesome. And one thing from my side, what I want to add, I want to also see how other DAOs operate, maybe even like try to get a bit more insights, not to do espionage, by the way, but just to a little bit, get some alternative. And because DAOs are by nature open. So, if I can kind of go and see how they work and maybe draw some good experiences from there to improve SwissAssetDAO, to add more value to the community, more value to the project, to what we're doing, I think that would be very valuable. And also to see their horrible mistakes and they just not do the same thing. So that's also a very good approach as well. So this is something definitely what I'll put it as a task, goal on my side to achieve, during the coming time period. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah.
That sounds good. I think the other theme that I've been that has been sort of inbound on my side is, I think because we're getting the message out there, there's also been a number of sort of reverse inquiries, I suppose, for people either wanting help. Let's call it tokenizing. I know we don't like to use that phrase, but either wanting help with establishing their own DAOs or businesses, or looking at tokenizing and potentially feeding into some of the thoughts we've had, I think, about a consulting type business. So sort of a fee-driven business using some of the expertise within the DAO.
Yep.
So a number of interesting ones there, from ESG litigation platforms to Filipino coconut palm plantations. This is just in the last 3 days. So we'll some interesting stuff.
Awesome, very cool. Yeah, and want to also say to mention that our friends from TakaDAO, or I was on a podcast with them. They also reached out to ask some questions about how they want to actually set up a legal wrapper for their DAO as well now. So I think the fact that we can help, and I think also maybe that's a path for us as well, that maybe the people who we can help and also earn some revenues in the end for SwissAssetDAO, there maybe could be in our first or second network actually, and as well to spread the word out that we're doing it, we can help it, and then see what comes back. Definitely on the setting up the DAO side, this is something where we can excel and add a lot of value to the community. Yeah. Maybe one last thing that I want to add on my side is a fascinating discussions that I had in the last couple of weeks is with regards to borrowing and lending platforms. When they promise yield now, I mean, I really want to tell the community the reactions from people when they hear that a borrowing and lending platform is offering yield and they cannot explain in 2 words where the yield comes from. I mean, the skepticism that is still present in our industry because of the bankruptcy of BlockFi, Genesis, Gemini, Voyager, Celsius, FTX. I heard an amazing statement today. A person said, if you can't explain to me immediately where the yield is coming from, it means I'm the yield. And it was such a, I think, strong statement because I think it's a very, very, hopefully sounding a little bit like our industry is maturing, that people still, it's in the back of their memory, all these blobs, and just showing how unsustainable that was. And let's gather this, let's take this as a very positive momentum, turn it as a very positive momentum that, we can add a lot of value. If you just, you can explain in a simple way, hey, this is where the yield comes from. It comes with risks, but this is where the yields come from. I think just being able to do that provides enormous value for the community. So this is something that I wanted to actually add because I mentioned at the end that I would like to discuss it, how yield fits into crypto going up like crazy, that I'd still say it's fresh in the memories of many, many people that I speak with, obviously who are professionals, that they're in the crypto space for many years, but the awareness around being the yield yourself is still very high. So that's very positive, actually, in a sense of giving momentum to real world assets. So I just wanted to add that, and I don't know, guys, what you want to share this, but maybe something for tomorrow to write to our community. If you can't explain the yield, then you are the yield. So this is something, Cool, awesome, yeah. I think then slowly we are, we can wrap it up. I know there were some questions actually when you see them actually here from Sergey. So Sergey made a very good point with regards to, on-chain asset issuance. I think it's a very good identification that maybe governments won't be the first ones there to go on Ethereum and issue a treasury token that everybody can freely move around and trade and exchange. So I think that's unlikely. But, on the corporate side or maybe crypto, or not, I wouldn't say crypto native companies, but maybe companies who are very close to crypto. So as an example, I'm not saying this will happen, but a company like Coinbase, by the way, Coinbase issued a bond, corporate bond. So they actually, a company like them to issue on-chain corporate bond, this is something that could be, a way forward, kind of how that on-chain asset issuance could look in the future. So not somebody very far from the crypto industry, but perhaps somebody who is a bit closer actually. So as an example, I'm not saying Coinbase will do it, but Kraken, maybe Binance one day, or all of these players actually, they could be the the pioneers of on-chain asset issuance. So I just wanted to add that a little bit, into the context of Sergey's very insightful comment. Awesome. I'm looking at the questions if there's something we missed or didn't address, but I think that's it, guys, actually, yeah. Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome, cool. That's it, actually. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining. It was really awesome. Spread the word about SwissAssetDAO. Read the deck, provide us feedback, share the deck with your friends as well, and your grandmothers and parents and daughters and sons, everybody. So explain to them what SwissAssetDAO is doing. And if you haven't become a member of SwissAssetDAO, now is the perfect time to do it. because you never know how long this will be open, and how long this will be possible. And likewise, inviting all the corporate members that I hope we can onboard as well, a few of them in the coming time period, and have some corporate members and their logos and their stickers, close to SwissAssetDAO. So become a member and provide us feedback, and great to have you as a part of our community. Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Anton. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you, everyone. Awesome.
Bye now.
Bye. Bye, Jamie. Bye, Mike.
Bye.
Bye, Chris. Bye-bye.